Welcome to Showdown. I'm Mark Kaysen, and just learned moments ago something that sort of surprised me, and that is that the baseball games will actually start on Friday. So they're going to give everybody a nice long rest, and I guess that's a fair thing. I have to admit, Vic, are you a baseball guy?
Yes, I'm an all sports guy.
Okay, because I have to say that the Dodgers and the Yankees, I mean, it's got to be one of the great classic matchups. I am very enthused about it. And
Yankees.
who's for the Yankees?
I am.
Boy, I hate to say it, but I agree with you.
Yes.
That's terrible. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to.
New York is Trump country.
I'm going to have to rethink my persona. Yeah, New York is Trump country.
New York.
Yeah, just like
this is Trump versus Harris. Harris is for LA and San Francisco.
Yeah.
Trump's for New York.
Well, it's funny you say all that because actually, and it's one thing that deserves to be mentioned today, is that speaking of somebody who's completely, totally, I mean, the man's lost. You talk about people who are deranged. This guy actually believes, or no, I shouldn't say believes. He says that he is going to win California by an enormous margin. Now, he did say that. Yeah, he did say that. Yeah.
He's messing around. He knows he's not winning California.
No, he doesn't know. See that? See, and listen,
yes,
that is exactly how the Jews got screwed by Hitler in 1938. Because you see, that's the favorite thing. Oh, he's kidding. Yeah, Hitler isn't going to put the Jews in a camp. Come on. What are you talking about? They're just kidding. Yeah, that's exactly how it happens. There you go. Trump doesn't mean it. All weekend, all the things that he said, totally insane. And I suppose that, let me ask you, Vic. Oh, the door is closed. Okay. I mean, I'm just interested, at how many people think that what Trump said. No, I just wanted to know if you thought that his Palmer comments were appropriate.
What's Palmer?
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought.
Honestly, on my kids' life, I have no idea what you're talking about. Golf. Arnold Palmer. What did he say? I honestly don't know what he said. Go look it up. Teach me. Go look it up on Google. I won't even talk about it. I honestly have no idea what he said about it. Well, that's amazing you don't. And how could you not know? You're the news. I like, I mean, not you don't hear the news. You are the news. I like an Arnold Palmer drink. Yeah. Go look it up. John Daly drink, baby. Yeah. Okay, I got you. Okay, so here's the deal. 2 weeks and 1 day. 2 weeks and 1 day. And then we get on to the next phase where Donald says, I won by a landslide, I've been cheated, and we're going to win. So, yeah, today, I mean, repeatedly he is asked, are you going to agree to accept the election no matter what happens? And his answer is, well, of course, because I'm going to win, and if I don't win, then it would be cheating. And I'm going to agree to any fair election. And of course, if he loses, then it's not fair. So then we have to fight over that. And that's where we'll be 2 weeks from tomorrow. We will be arguing over how Donald could believe that the election was stolen. Of course, now he says he's going to win in California, which I know, he's just kidding. Everything's just kidding. Terminate the Constitution. Oh, I was just kidding. I'm going to be dictator on day one. I'm sorry. I was just kidding. Arnold Palmer. Yeah, I was just kidding. Everything. He's just kidding. But I watched Lindsey Graham on Sunday morning. Lindsey Graham wasn't kidding. But I think it's so interesting what they didn't do. And maybe there's a deal. Maybe there's an arrangement that they won't do it. But I don't think so. But what they didn't do is they didn't play what he said, what Lindsey Graham said when he announced that he was done with all of this junk with Trump. The whole thing, he was just through with it. Of course, not anymore. He's far from through with it. But what he said on Sunday is that what Kamala Harris has done over the last 4 years is so devastating that that's the whole thing. That Kamala Harris has destroyed our country, destroyed it. We're ruined. And as a result, he can't vote for her. In fact, he's going to enthusiastically vote for Donald Trump because Kamala Harris has ruined the country. Now, of course, we know that the president was Joe Biden, not Kamala Harris. That's the first thing. The second thing is the country is so far from ruin. In fact, it is the opposite of ruin. Of course, it was saved over the last 4 years. And if nothing else had been done, absolutely nothing, except NATO, if that were the only thing that happened over the last 4 years, Joe Biden would have been a savior for the United States. Nothing but NATO. Now, of course, we know that there was so much more than NATO. Infrastructure, enormous amounts of money went into that, and it's continuing. It's an ongoing process. It is going into infrastructure, which the country was desperate for. We were desperate for it for 4 years under Donald, and Donald promised every time he got in front of a camera, in 2 weeks, we will deal with infrastructure. And 4 years later, nothing. So Joe Biden got the infrastructure deal passed. He got the semiconductor chips deal passed. He got the Inflation Reduction Act passed. And let me say this about inflation reduction. It wasn't inflation reduction. It was not. Let's agree to that. He gave it a great name, which was a name that the country wanted. But his act did not end inflation. Now, inflation has come down, of course. It came down because of what the Federal Reserve did, not because of anything to do with that Inflation Reduction Act. Absolutely nothing. On the other side of the coin, the Inflation Reduction Act is certainly a very important economic development tool for the United States, and it will have very positive impact long down the line. And, you know, when people say, oh, still got a deficit, well, we do have a deficit. And we also owe a little over 100% of gross domestic product. That's how much we owe. Now, remember this. China owes 250% of gross domestic product, and other countries likewise owe high levels of debt relative to their gross domestic product. And here's the thing. None of them can handle it anyway because they're not the United States. And the United States can handle it very effectively. And I'm only sad about one thing with regard to this subject. Under Trump, and for the first 2 years under Joe Biden, the United States could have issued 100-year bonds, which would have locked up our debt for so far into the future that it would have really helped us tremendously because future dollars are always easier to pay than current dollars because there's always inflation. And as there is inflation, the amount of money that you pay back, even though it's the number you agreed to, but the number is diminished by the constant inflation. It was such a smart idea. It was outlined in Barron's magazine, well, way back in the Trump administration. And everybody knew about it. Trump knew about it. Trump, I heard him mention it once. He didn't do it. He should have. He could have. He just didn't want to. We could have issued bonds like that so easily. Wouldn't have been a problem. 2-3%, as far as the eye could see, it would have opened up our opportunity to even borrow more money. Now, I understand people just don't understand borrowing. The United States not only borrows, but it pays everything back. And because we always do pay everything back, people will lend us money at the best rates in the world all the time. And again, as a result of that, the United States, when we're short of money, can get our hands on anything in order to set up any projects, in order to just do anything that we want. Now, I think it's interesting, and now again I'm talking about economic development. It's interesting that under Bill Clinton, and then later under Barack Obama, the Democrats all talked about how great it would be if we started our own high-speed rail network. Basically, it would have been establishing a high-speed rail network in the place of our highways. Not saying actually to replace them, but it certainly would, take a tremendous amount of pressure off of our highways, and it would be a tremendous new way to send people traveling around the country, especially giving them big, giant seats with desks and internet connections and telephone connections, and business people could travel, let's say, from St. Louis to California and back in a day. I mean, it's just a few hours there, a few hours back. I mean, this all is in our future, and we should have done it already, and we could. Now, admittedly, it's a program that will cost in the trillions of dollars. Well, that's okay. It's an investment in the future of the United States, and I can tell you that what we have done with our highways is exactly this. It results in tremendous economic development. It's just something that would put the United States far above the rest of the world. They've got it in Japan. They've got it in Europe. And we should have it. Instead, our trains go clackety-clack down the track 60 miles an hour, some places 50. Now, in the Northeast, they got some trains up there that go 85, and they call that high-speed rail, which is sad. In Europe, of course, 200 miles an hour. In Japan, they've got them, some of them, not all, but some of them going 400 miles per hour, which is now getting up there with airplanes. And there are other ways that you can set up these networks where they could go 800 miles per hour, and eventually they will. Too bad we're not doing that, because we would put everybody to work with that in a way that would just be incredibly productive. But all I was going to say here is that Kamala Harris isn't mentioning it at all. They're afraid. And that's a shame. And this is all because of Donald. Because really, Donald has got this focus onto into immigration that is so harmful to the United States. You know, here's one for you. And I mention this all the time, but I mentioned it last week, and a couple of people actually came up to me and said, we heard what you mentioned about listening to Ronald Reagan, and they listened to the Ronald Reagan speech. Interesting what they thought about it. I said, what'd you hear? Both people said, I heard you. Because that's what Ronald Reagan said. Exactly what I have said. Now, there is a difference. Ronald Reagan has said, let them all in. Open the doors to the immigrants. Build this country on immigrants, which we have since the beginning. And it works. And, you know, we've got a Statue of Liberty. I've always said, the Statue of Liberty tells everybody what we're going to do and what we should do. But I didn't know, with all the things I do know, I did not know that Ronald Reagan had said this. But he did. In his farewell speech, he outlined this, very clearly. And the only difference is, I've said, let's send 1 million high school graduates to the border. Send them down there when all these people come across, and let them help to settle everybody, get them into schools, help them to figure out what they're going to have to do to learn English, what they have to do to fill out paperwork for Social Security cards. I mean, let's get these people in here on the payroll and working and becoming educated. Because here's the thing. In 50 years, you won't know where they came from. You really wouldn't. You wouldn't at all. And all of this color difference, it's going away anyhow. I mean, people are getting married and they're having kids, and the kids are, a little of this and a little of that. By the time you're through, all the differences disappear. I know if you look ahead 5 years, you're afraid, sadly enough, you're afraid that the bad people are coming to destroy you, that your families are all going to look black. I mean, all this crazy stuff that's going on in your heads. It's a sad thing that's affected this country. And it's really Donald. And we'll talk about that specifically here in a minute. But, all this hate, well, that's not Donald. That's the United States. That's everybody. We've always been that way. We did it to the Irish. We did it to the Germans. We did it to everybody. We did it to the Chinese. We're not nice. But then again, maybe that's just human nature, because we've watched people around the world do it. So, okay, it's not good. And we should be against it. And amazingly enough, for me, I'm amazed, Ronald Reagan was against all this craziness. Now, Ronald Reagan was a pretty hateful guy at times. He went a long way towards destroying the university education system in California, although it's rebounded in years subsequent to his disappearing. But there were many things that Ronald Reagan did that were terrible. But when it comes to what he was recommending for immigration, Ronald Reagan had it right. And he also understood that we had that statue, the Statue of Liberty, sitting out in New York Harbor. And it tells you exactly what we should do and what we will do. And that is welcome the huddled masses yearning to breathe free and just send them over here. Send them here. It doesn't say send us your best. It says send us the refuse. It says that. It doesn't say send us the best people. It just says send them. Send us what you got. We'll take them. Because guess what? They'll become Americans. They'll make money. They'll buy businesses. They'll start businesses. They'll go to universities. They'll be innovators. They'll be everything that the good people of this country are. And everything will work out fine. And actually, that will happen. Now, I admit that I say that Kamala will absolutely win, and I'm sure she will. But let's just say for a minute that she didn't. But she will. But say that she wouldn't. And what I want to get across is this. I mean, we might go through, under those circumstances, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 bad years. And you know what happened when Hitler won. 12 years of basic suicide for German society. And then they came out on the other side thanks to the United States, which has been out here leading the world in so many phenomenal ways. And here we are with the opportunity to save ourselves. And I do believe that we will save ourselves in 2 weeks and a day. And then we'll have to listen to Donald screaming and yelling and throwing a fit and claiming he's a victim and all that. But, put that aside because he's not going anywhere. I know he thinks he's going to be Rutherford B. Hayes, but he's not. He's not going to get away with any of his tricks. And I say his tricks, no, they're not his. These are old tricks in the United States playbook, and he thinks he can do it, and he can't. It's all right. But look, there are bad things. I mean, we can sit here and say it's going to be okay because we'll get rid of Trump. One way or the other, we will. And I say it's going to be sooner rather than later. But we'll get rid of him. And then we'll deal with what we have to deal with. But still, the country is so fearful that that's sad. Now, I know a lot of people are worried, well, what if Trump's gone? And then we have to deal with J.D. Vance. Because J.D. Vance runs for president in 2028. And what if he were to win? Well, here's the thing. Vance knows better. He does. And he's also a smart guy. And I think that when he sees Trump crushed in 2 weeks and a day, I think that'll be the end of Vance acting that way. First of all, Trump will be deposited on the ashes of history where he belongs with Joe McCarthy. And then J.D. Vance will take over sort of a leadership role in the Republican Party, unless it's Nikki Haley or somebody else, but probably Vance, maybe Vance. But if it is, it won't be a problem. Because Vance is not going to play the same game, the same cards that Trump has, because he's smart enough to see that it's a losing game. Anybody that does this is a loser. And Vance doesn't want to be a loser. In fact, all these people that saw Vance at the debate, they're saying the same thing. Gee, he didn't sound so bad. Well, of course he didn't, because he sort of dodged all the Donald Trump craziness. Okay. Hey, oh, I don't like to hear that. There's a problem with the microphone, Joe.
No, I didn't. I hear you just fine.
Yeah, let's see what you can do.
What's
I
wrong?
got some people. Yeah, I gotta. Yeah, can't have it. I know you know how to fix it, but I just hate to put you through 25 minutes of doing that. But thank you, Greg. I needed to know that.
Huh.
That's a shame.
Well, I don't.
Yeah. Well, whatever it is.
I
Okay.
checked it earlier. I'm checking now, but I don't see it. So
Okay.
I don't hear it.
Okay. We'll see. It's possible that Greg, somebody shot Greg in the ear.
Okay. All right.
But we'll find out. I hope your ear is going to be okay, Greg. But anyway, here we are. Okay. So aside from that problem, let's see. Greg says he hears it on
It's
all
all right.
platforms.
I'll take care of it.
Okay. Okay, so that's another story. But live broadcasting does that sometimes. We can talk about it and fix it, and all that's okay. Anyway, so let me flip back here and just at least say this. JD Vance, I feel, will not be our problem. And JD Vance showed in that debate that he was perfectly capable of behaving himself like a human being. And that's a good thing. And now he's not. Now he's echoing all of Donald's craziness. And that's fine, because otherwise Donald will throw him out or hang him. Remember hang Mike Pence? Yeah. So, yeah, J.D. Vance doesn't want to be hung. Or even have people chasing him down the street, threatening to hang him, with Donald saying, so what? Yeah, so I can understand why he would want to avoid that one. But at any rate, here we are, and we're facing an election that's really at our doorstep. And thing about how the country is being destroyed, and we're being conquered by foreigners. All that ridiculous business. And here's the thing. We went through 4 years of Donald Trump, and Joe Biden walked in and fixed it all. He fixed it all in less than a year. And we had two new countries in NATO, Finland and Sweden, and really, we have accomplished so much in the 4 years subsequent. But let's not even think about that for a minute. And let's think about a couple of obvious points. Number one, up until Friday, all the way through Friday, the Dow Jones Industrials, the S&P 500, all brand new all-time highs. Now, I will grant you, and I've explained this in the past, the Russell 2000 is another one too. It's the value on 1700. But let's go with the Russell 2000. That's a broad-based index that represents the overall market. And it is not at a new high. In fact, it hit its high 4 years ago. And it is still struggling. And today, believe me, it got whacked hard. Not the end of the world, but it did. Because the market is getting, as they say, long in the tooth. That's one way of putting it. Another way is that it's just old. It is narrow. This is the bull market. And it is going to end. I can tell you that. It's going to end. There were articles over the weekend. Yeah, I get it. There were articles over the weekend from Barron's that talked about the fact that the AI bubble is worse than the year 2000. Well, I can tell you that. That's true. I've been saying it. And I shouldn't say it. You should know. You don't know, but you should know that markets like this, that they go for a long time, and then they eventually dump. And they sometimes go beyond what you would expect, and sometimes substantially, which this one has. Apple, Amazon, all of these companies, they're in so much trouble. They're facing such a downturn. Not because of Joe Biden, not because of Kamala, not because of the language of Donald Trump. It's none of that. It's because that's what happens to markets. The money gets used up, and what money is left flows into the top companies until it's no more. And then the down
Joseph Schumpeter. Who is he? Whew. Well, he's an economic theorist from long ago who came up with the idea of something that he called creative destruction. And you could put in creative destruction online and pull up articles off of Google or off of scholar.google.com. And I have to tell you, you would be, number one, shocked to see what they say in these articles, because they describe exactly what we're going through. And then they describe the way these things end up being fixed, because they are fixed. And they're fixed because you end up with a new base and everything comes from that. But the reality of what we've got right now is that giant success carries with it the seeds of its own destruction. That's Schumpeter. That's what he said. And that was always true. And it always will be true. There's no other way around it. I understand you may not understand, and others that aren't economists may not get it, and they'll wonder why we can't just have soft landings all the time. But we can't. Just can't. And one of the problems that we may be going through right now is that we've got a situation with the Federal Reserve that is running down its balance sheet. That balance sheet was ballooned in order to save us from some other problems, and it worked beautifully. But now we're, quote, normalizing everything. And as that balance sheet runs down, it puts tremendous pressure on our economics. And let me add this. Look at interest rates today. you can rely on what I'm telling you. Donald's getting massacred. And at that very moment, he's telling everybody that he's winning by a landslide in California. I know that his people believe this. I understand that. His people will believe anything he says. And one of two things is happening. Either Donald is so delusional that he believes it himself, or he's laughing at you all and telling you things that he knows are not true, and laughing to himself over the fact that no matter what he says, you'll believe him. How many times have I said this? Donald Trump, you could support him all you want, and then you walk up to him and say hello, and he'll spit in your eye. He has no care for you at all, or anybody. He is Adolf Hitler. Okay. I'm going to do some business because I think this is working here right now, I hope. And here's the deal. If you go to Wendy's at 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road, you're going to absolutely love their wings. They've got wings. They've got smoked meat. They've got hamburgers, cheeseburgers, patty melts, tons of onions. They've got salads. They've got pizza. They've got all the great food that you can imagine, terrific drinks, the best, the very best iced tea on the planet. And I love their baby back ribs and onion rings. That's just my pick. You take yours. As some people have said, you say, well, you could do it. It's a free country for now. But go to Wendy's, exercise your freedoms, and enjoy all their great food. And then go to Defiance and do the same thing all over again, because right down the road at 2999 South Highway 94 in Defiance, same great Wendy's food. Ben and his wife have done it again. It's great. That's Wendy's. Now, Jules on Hampton. I was there this afternoon. That's why I was late coming in, actually. And I spent some time with Al. And I have to tell you, Al is just a great person. I always say it. And here I went to see him today. He's just a great person. He really is. His son, AJ, and the whole staff, they're all great. And what do they have? They've got cases of jewelry. They've got jewelry design that you can work on either with them or on your own, and they'll help you. Here's the deal. Jules on Hampton is just a terrific jewelry store. It's the best. And beyond that, I promise you, you can buy and sell jewelry and coins, and they'll get you the best prices for that as well. They're just good people. You'll love them. 4506 Hampton. It is Jules on Hampton. And here I go again. Another suit, another tie, another nice shirt. It's all the St. Louis Suit Company. You can't beat them. The prices are phenomenal for the suits. They're great for the shirts and the shoes and the overcoats. And really, remember this. The overcoats, come on. This is the time for it. I know it's a little warm out there right now this afternoon, but I read right on my phone in front of me, it says, low temperatures to drop by Wednesday. Well, of course, it's winter coming. What do you expect? So you need that overcoat. Go get it. I mean, even at the prices that are normal prices right now, there's still bargains at the St. Louis Suit Company. You'll love their clothes. And don't forget, if you're getting married, wedding attire is the best at the St. Louis Suit Company, and the people there will help you to get set for your wedding. They'll tell you what you need. They'll tell you how to do it. They'll make it go very smoothly. You'll love it at the St. Louis Suit Company in Clayton. They've been there 30 years. Forsyth and Central. Jay and his son Nick and everybody else, the family is all there. You will love the St. Louis Suit Company. Okay. Finally, it's Monday, so it's not spaghetti and meatballs day at Telena's. That was Friday. But listen, here's the deal. Telena's is the best Italian food in this city. And I promise you, people come from everywhere to not only buy Telena's, to get their food, but they take the food out. They get the food sent out by the catering service at Telena's. They'll take it all over the place. They might not take it to California for you, but they'll take it, outstate Missouri. They go pretty far. People love Telena's Italian food, and I know I do. I'd love to be able to eat it unlimited, but unfortunately, it's not going to work. And Greg says I'm sounding very well, and I'm glad to hear that. And Greg, wait till you hear how they fix this thing, because I've seen Joe do it, and it seems like nothing ever happened. But hey, that's because you got a real professional here. That's why they call him Joe Pro. Okay. So Telena's, again, Friday will come along and it'll be spaghetti and meatballs day. And you can eat spaghetti and meatballs any day at Telena's. Really, you can. But I just call it that on Friday. They've been there for 40 years. I don't have to tell you, they're just great. They're in Creve Coeur, and that is Telena's. Okay. So, a few more things as we, wind down here on a weird technological afternoon. Things happen. Let me say this. There is a question that is being asked, and it's very difficult for Kamala to answer it, because the answer would have to be, are you a moron? And she's not going to do that, and she shouldn't. But here's the thing. They say, what's the difference between you and Joe Biden when you know that Joe Biden has destroyed our country? Well, that's the problem. Joe Biden hasn't destroyed our country. Joe Biden has done a terrific job with our country. In fact, he's done such a great job that the 158 scholars who go through all the presidencies every year, and they evaluate and then they rank them, they have said that Joe Biden's presidency is number 14 in American history, which is pretty good. And these are 158 scholars, and I understand people don't like it if you went to college. They think you're a moron, and you're something wrong with you if you went to college. I get it, but here's the thing: these aren't just college people; these are scholars who study history, study the presidency. I mean, they know it backward and forward. And not only have they said that Joe Biden is number 14, and that's not fixed in any kind of serious way. I mean, next year it could be 16, it could be 12, who knows? But here's the deal. Every year that the presidents are evaluated, Donald is last. You get that? LAST, last. He is the worst president in the history of the United States. according to the 158 scholars who do all this evaluation, they're top people. You can say, well, what if they miss it? What if they're off? Well, they could be off, but how far off can they be? They say every year, 4 letters, LAST, last. Donald's a loser. He is a deranged maniac. Now, it's funny when I say that, you got to be careful when you call people names. These are names that have actually been attributed to him by the psychological community. These are psychiatrists. They have evaluated him, from a distance, but they all say the same thing, that even though they're not supposed to evaluate from a distance, in the case of Donald, it all sticks out so obviously. It's pretty easy to make the judgment. And anyway, his niece, Mary Trump, she has been right there. She's seen it. She's evaluated him. And she says that he is a delusional, deranged, psychotic maniac. Gee, it's a lot of bad words, but, I don't like calling people names, and I wouldn't, except these are psychological descriptions is what I'm telling you. Now, beyond that, there are a lot of people who have seen a lot of things in Donald that are worthy of us understanding. For example, he never pays his bills. Now, I'm sure there are people out here who say, well, that's pretty smart of him. If you don't have to pay your bills, then that's good. And okay, so, he doesn't pay his bills. The piano tuner came into Trump Tower and fixed all the pianos up and got them all tuned. And Donald said, ha, 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 not paying. It's just what Donald does. Doesn't pay. I guess if you can get away with it, you think you're pretty cool. But of course, there are probably people in the United States who would say that if, for example, if Kamala Harris told you that whenever people came to her house to, fix the sink or fix the basement or, whatever it is over the years that she had fixed wherever she lived, that whenever they showed up, that before they left, they would come with a bill and they would say, here's the bill. And she would say, sucker. Let me tell you something. Everybody would be in an uproar. The country would be going berserk. What is wrong with this woman? How could she be in a position to be president of the United States? That is impossible. But Donald doesn't pay anybody, bankrupts on every debt that he owes, 6 times in business, because he touches things and every time they die. There's a book by that name. Honestly, what do you think is going on here? Donald has this crazy language. He's now using profanity everywhere. And I'm not even talking about Arnold Palmer. He's using profanity everywhere possible. And no one cares. They act like it's nothing. If Kamala said it, they'd go insane. That they wouldn't know what to do. And it's just inappropriate language. And because Donald says it, it's all right. And the fact that people who listen to Donald and follow him, they'll believe anything he says. Look, it's either the guy is so delusional that he's saying all these things because he's in serious need of help, or he's laughing at you because you go along with him and he knows he can say anything and he can do it. And everybody says, well, we still love him. And he does it a little more and they say they love him. He says he's going to put troops on the street and arrest Adam Schiff and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and CBS News, and he wants Joe Scarborough executed. All of this doesn't matter. It's okay. Keep going. His lawyers said that SEAL Team 6 could go out and kill Trump's political opponents. No problem. Not against the law. And by the way, they are getting legislation ready, and it's called the No Kings Act, and it will overturn what the Supreme Court has done with all this immunity nonsense. And I'll tell you, it might even come down to the point where we have to have a constitutional amendment, and we will do that if necessary. We will, because this isn't going to happen ever again. And it's certainly not going to happen now because, listen, if, and he can't, but if Donald were to win, and he can't, but if he were to win, you wouldn't believe it. Really. It would almost be worth allowing him to win just to let you see Nazi Germany in your backyard. General Milley says it's absolutely where we're headed if Donald would win. Milley says that Donald is a fascist to the core. General Milley is a Republican. General Milley wouldn't talk like this. Neither would Mattis. Neither would Tillerson. Neither would all of these hundreds of Republicans from government who are telling you, don't let this man be president again. He will destroy the United States, not to mention what he would do to the world after he destroyed NATO and turned everything over to Vladimir Putin. This is not a joke. But it's not a worry, really, because he can't win. Really, he can't. I promise you. 2 weeks in a day, Donald will lose. Then he'll start the campaign for how he really won. But he didn't. And he won't. And it'll all be over in 2 weeks in a day. We'll all be fine. But for right now, all you have to do is this. And this I would do. This I implore you to do. Go to Wendy's. Go to Jules on Hampton. Go to the St. Louis Suit Company in Clayton, which has been there for 40 years. I'm sorry, only 30. The 40 years is Telena's, and they have been. They're great. You'll love them. You'll love them all. And I'm Mark Kaysen, and this is Showdown.